Welcome back to Legends and Lore. When we think of Greek heroes, the first name that usually comes to mind is Heracles, a hulking brute of global fame, smashing monsters across the known world. But Heracles was a Dorian hero, claimed by Sparta. The great city of Athens, the cradle of democracy and philosophy, needed its own champion. They needed someone who wasn't just strong, but smart. Someone who didn't just kill beasts, but established civilization. They created Theseus. Today we are doing a deep dive into the life of Theseus. From his secret origins and his 6 brutal labors on the coast road, to the dark labyrinth of Crete, where he faced the Minotaur, and finally, to his tragic reign as king. This is the complete story of Athens' greatest and most complicated hero. Our story begins not in Athens, but across the Saronic Gulf in Troezen. King Aegeus of Athens, desperate for an heir, slept with Princess Aethra. But Aegeus feared his jealous nephews back in Athens would kill the child. Before returning to Athens, Aegeus buried his sandals and sword under a massive rock. He told Aethra that if their son grew strong enough to lift that rock and claim the tokens, he should be sent to Athens to claim his birthright. That boy was Theseus. When Theseus came of age, he effortlessly lifted the stone. His mother told him to take the safe sea route to Athens, but Theseus, craving glory and wanting to rival Heracles, chose the dangerous coastal road. This road was plagued by 6 sadistic bandits and monsters. Theseus's journey became a campaign of retributive justice. He did to the villains exactly what they did to their victims. He defeated Periphetes the club-bearer and took his weapon. He stopped Sinis, the pine-bender, who tied travelers to bent trees and tore them apart. Theseus gave him a taste of his own medicine. He wrestled Cercyon to the death and killed the monstrous Crommyonian sow. By the time he reached the outskirts of Athens, the coast was clear, and word of a new hero had already reached the city. Theseus arrived in Athens not as a prince, but as a stranger. He found the palace under the sway of the sorceress Medea. Yes, the same Medea famous for the Golden Fleece story. She had married King Aegeus and recognized Theseus immediately through her foresight. Knowing Theseus would displace her own son, Medea convinced the old king that this newcomer was an assassin. She brewed a deadly poison, and Aegeus handed the cup to his own unknown son at a banquet. Just as Theseus raised the cup, he drew his sword, the sword from under the rock, to carve his meat. Aegeus recognized the hilt instantly. He knocked the cup from Theseus's hand, embracing his son. Medea, her plot foiled, fled Athens in a chariot drawn by dragons, because that's just how she rolled. Theseus was officially the heir, but his greatest challenge was already looming across the sea. This is the story everyone knows. Athens was paying a terrible blood tax to King Minos of Crete. Years prior, Minos' son had died in Athens, and in revenge, Minos demanded a tribute every 9 years. 7 Athenian youths and 7 maidens to be fed to the Minotaur. The Minotaur, half man, half bull, was kept in the labyrinth, an impossible maze built by the master inventor Daedalus. When the black-sailed tribute ship arrived, Theseus volunteered to go as one of the victims, promising his father he would kill the beast. He vowed that if he succeeded, he would change the ship's black sails to white on the return journey. In Crete, Minos' daughter Ariadne fell instantly in love with Theseus. She knew the labyrinth was a death sentence. Even if he killed the Minotaur, he'd never find his way out. She consulted Daedalus and gave Theseus a simple, brilliant tool, a ball of thread. That night, Theseus entered the labyrinth. He tied the string to the entrance and unspooled it as he walked deeper into the suffocating darkness. The air grew hot and smelled of blood. At the center, he found the Minotaur sleeping. The fight was brutal. It wasn't an elegant duel, it was a desperate brawl in the dark. Theseus, using his wrestling skills, managed to overpower the beast, eventually killing it with his bare hands, or in some versions, the sword Ariadne smuggled to him. He followed the thread back to the entrance, freed the other Athenians, took Ariadne, and fled Crete under the cover of darkness. The mission was a success, but the return journey defines Theseus as a flawed hero. They stopped at the island of Naxos. Here, in an act that mythologists still debate, Theseus abandoned Ariadne while she slept on the beach. Some say the god Dionysus demanded her as his wife. Others say Theseus was just callously moving on. Either way, he left her behind. In his haste, or perhaps distracted by guilt, Theseus forgot the most crucial thing. He forgot to change the sails from black to white. Back in Athens, King Aegeus had been keeping watch from Cape Sunion every day. When he saw the black sails on the horizon, he assumed his son was dead. Overcome with grief, the king threw himself into the sea, drowning instantly. That sea is named after him to this day, the Aegean Sea. Theseus returned in triumph as a monster slayer, only to be greeted by his father's funeral. He was now king of Athens. Theseus's reign wasn't just about sitting on a throne. The myths say he was responsible for the Synocism, the unification of the scattered towns of Attica into the single city-state of Athens. He is credited with founding their foundational democratic institutions. He was the hero who transitioned from fighting monsters in the wild to building civilization in the city. But his later life was messy. He and his best friend Pirithous made a pact to marry daughters of Zeus. Theseus kidnapped a young Helen of Troy, which started a war. And then, disastrously, they tried to kidnap Persephone, the queen of the underworld. Hades was not amused. He tricked them into sitting on the chair of forgetfulness, to which they were instantly fused. Theseus was eventually rescued by Heracles during his own labors, but he returned to an Athens that had moved on without him. He died in exile, thrown off a cliff on the island of Skyros. Theseus is a fascinating contradiction. He was a monster slayer, a brilliant tactician, and the mythical father of democracy. Yet, he was also forgetful, sometimes cruel to women, and prone to hubris. But perhaps that's why he was the perfect hero for Athens. He wasn't a blunt instrument like Heracles. He was complex, political, intelligent, and deeply flawed, just like the great city he represented. What do you think of Theseus? Was he a true hero, or just a glory hound who got lucky with some thread? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this deep dive into Greek mythology, hit that subscribe button and the bell so you don't miss our next myth. Thanks so much for watching. We hope you enjoyed the video.